Hey everybody, welcome back to the Beyond the Close podcast. I'm joined here today by Matt Quixley, the 8-figure closer. How are you, Matt?
I'm good, man. Yeah, it's good to go toe to toe. Just the two of us to chat through a few bits and pieces. I know I've got a bit on the cards on different types of sales. I'm keen to unpack it with you, mate.
Perfect, mate. Today I wanted to chat about B2B versus B2C. When I first started selling high ticket, B2B was seen as the panacea. It was always seen as you need to sort of pay your dues in the B2C world, and then
Yeah.
if you were skilled enough and lucky enough, you could get into the B2B space where you could sell higher ticket items, larger sort of programs. Go from selling 5K stuff to 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus. And I thought it would be interesting because I've been asked this a couple of times.
Yep.
And then we've had someone who's recently transitioned into BizOp, and they've been bitch slapped by
B2C,
by how
BizOp.
challenging BizOp can be. I thought it could be just good to chat because I know, mate, you've spent a fair bit of time in both worlds. So why don't we start with unpacking? Is it just as simple as saying B2B or B2C, or are there different kind of niches within B2B and B2C? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, man, it's developing. It's changing heaps. Even this year, you've seen it change. Like I was, working on a B2B offer, AI, very new space. So it's just like understanding within B2C and B2B, there's a lot of different offers and opportunities. And agree to what you said before. It's like, hey, B2B is like the holy grail, and now even that's changed. Like they're both great. It's just what you want. You want a shorter sales cycle. Do you want a longer sales cycle? You want less stakeholders. You want more stakeholders. So it's just like unpacking like what are your skills, and do you have the patience? Like I can do B2B really well because it's more objective. It's a business decision. All the rest of it, which I love. I'm not the one that's going to be on a biz op like they're going to finish the call in tears and we're going to sing Kumbaya together because it's just not my jam, as you'd say. But then on the other side with B2B, I'm impatient. Like my personality, I'm an executor. So I'm introverted, but I like to move things very, very fast. So it's like, we're going to wait until our next boardroom meeting. Then we'll come back. Then Philip's back from leave. And then I'm going to high five Susie from accounts. And then we'll take action. So there's stuff you can do, but there's a lot of other moving parts outside of the B2B space, which sometimes can be frustrating. So I think it's important to test both if you haven't done it. Obviously come in, if you're new to the space, looking to enter the space, like lean into your strengths. We've touched on that before. What's your current role like? Is it more, to consumers or business? But then once you're in the space, there's so many different ways it can be set up as well. So what are some of the other stuff you've sort of seen on your end? I know you said the BizOp particular. What have you sort of picked up?
BizOp. Well, and I just think if we make a distinction, I think the distinction we need to make, and this is a coach of mine, Simon Bowen, was able to help me make this distinction, and he describes it as you're selling either to a person or selling to a process.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're selling to a process, you're selling to a board. There might be a finance department, there might be multiple layers of management involved, there might be a board. They might have a process that they've got, for a government tender. You've got to follow their process. You might have to submit a proposal.
Yeah,
and you're not closing someone on a Zoom call on the first session. That's not happening. But and so I think that's the confusion: is B2B versus B2C. In my experience, it's selling. You're either selling to a person, you're selling to a business owner, or you're selling to a consumer. And if you're selling to a business owner, often it's a small business owner. It is technically B2B, but you're selling to a person.
Yeah.
On both. And, I've sold to a process. If you're selling to a couple, if you're selling B2C or B2B, whatever, you're selling to two people, you're technically then selling to a process because they have a process of decision making. You've got to kind of help manage that process. But let's talk about BizOp because you asked that question. And I thought it could be interesting to sort of unpack some of the different types of offers that are out there. So BizOp, when I first got into when I first got into selling a real estate sort of offer, it was technically a BizOp. I didn't know what the term BizOp meant at the time.
For a bit. Yeah, I'm a bit behind
no
on
idea.
that. Yeah, I'm definitely uncool with like SDR, BizOp. I'm like, okay, I
lingo.
sell. Yeah.
Yeah, you just get in there and close whoever's in front of you. So business opportunity, which is you're selling to top of funnel. Now, you can have something that does similar, that serves as a similar market, like, or a coaching program that works with, let's say, e-com. There are BizOp e-com coaching programs out there which help people transition into e-com and start from scratch. And so e-com Capital, I think, is a company that does this really well. And there's a bunch of others that help people transition into e-com from not having an e-com store. And that's BizOp. What the offer that we were on, which was helping people transition from one career into a brand new career and teaching them those skills and the strategies, that was a business opportunity. Amazon, selling on Amazon, sort of anything where it's make more money, side hustle, and you're bringing awareness to the opportunity and then teaching them how to sort of
Monetize
capitalize
that
on it.
Yeah.
That is business opportunity. But then, for the e-com thing, Jay Wright, one of the top guys out there, huge business, super successful. He only works with e-commerce brands that are, I think, doing 30K a month, or it might be even more, or more in business and revenue, and that's his market, and he's just got a huge market. So he only coaches e-commerce. So that's a little bit more bottom of funnel, talking to people who are already in it and they've got problems.
Yeah.
And so he coaches those types of people. Now that's an example of within the e-commerce niche, you can have business opportunity and then you can have straight coaching. But for business opportunity, why is business opportunity looked at as such a challenge versus, maybe coaching people who are already in e-com or who are already doing the thing and who have got problems with that thing? Why do you feel like it could be difficult?
Yeah, well, for me, I touched on, obviously, because I start in fitness, like getting into a high ticket fitness offer where it's very clear in terms of, hey, I want to lose weight or this is going on. It's like, cool, the equation 1 + 1 = 2. It's a lot more black and white, where BizOp, and again, I guess sometimes I don't know what I don't know, because I've done a lot on BizOp, and sometimes you can come on other offers like, oh, wow, this is a lot easier than BizOp, because there's a lot of competition. I think there's a lot of competition out there. The consumer's very skeptical a lot of the time. Like, I think, hey, you're going to push it down my throat, or it's a get rich scheme or scam or whatever you want to sort of call it. So you've got to be patient. It's sort of like you're lurking there, you're educating them. They're very sort of suspicious. It's low trust. So I think your ability to build trust again is even higher. So they've got to buy into you a lot more than the product, because they're like, oh, all the testimonials and reviews, like, not necessarily always buying into that as well, because it's like, what about the people that aren't successful? I want to call your students, or what else is going in there. So I think the ability for them to buy into you a lot more, because it isn't as black and white. They could be looking at your BizOp and they literally have other calls booked in later that day to explore other ones. So what's going to distinguish you a lot more? So I think that buy-in factor is really, really key. And that's where people can just get smacked in the face, like you say, because if they don't do that, it's like, oh, this person's just looking to get a property or lose weight. And it's very black and white too. Yeah, there still might be some other competitors in the game, but you're essentially convincing people. Again, we've convinced people that, you're going to pay me to lose weight, eat healthy, sweat a lot, be uncomfortable. If you can sell fitness, then anything else is usually a bit easier than that. But for this, it's like, yeah, you're going to try something new. It's going to be scary. Who knows if it's going to be around in a couple of years. You're going to put time and money into it, and then fingers crossed it does lead to XYZ outcome of making more. So I think that, yeah, just again, that trust building process too. Whereas if they don't buy in there and they feel like it's not quite right, you can just lose them. And if you do that a few times, it can be game over. Like, that can make or break your month. A couple of conversations, or I can't remember how you called it, like line balls. And if they go the other way, you're cooked. And then you think it's you. Partner asks, how's your day? Oh, great, I made no sales on this BizOp. I had a full score. What happened? Oh, the 8 calls booked, 6 showed up, and I cooked them. I'm not sure why.
A lot of people just told me that I was a great bloke and a nice guy, but they wanted to think about it.
Yeah, so. And that was that.
It's so I think distinction with when you're coaching business owners or people who've got a clear problem.
Yep.
You're actually coaching them to do you're coaching people like fitness people who are on a fitness journey already.
Yeah, problem
You're
aware.
coaching them through a challenge, or you're coaching them to achieve a certain outcome. Or if you're coaching a business owner who's already in a business, in a niche, they often come with a problem. Recruitment for us, we sell recruitment, we sell salespeople essentially. And people who need salespeople have a need for salespeople, and they come into the call with a need for salespeople. And so typically, if you can solve that problem and there's a match and you can display value and there's ROI that can be seen and there's enough trust there, problem equals right solution. There's it's 1 + 1 = 2. It can be quite straightforward.
Yep.
It's not always required. You're certainly mostly not always required to capitalize on a lot of emotion and a lot of that pain selling, and a lot of like in real estate, for example, there's a lot of logistical, like buyer's agency. If you're selling buyer's agency, it's a lot of financial questions, and there's a lot of logistical considerations on that call. So that it's a lot of technical stuff on that sales call rather than closing and selling. And I've worked with a number of reps who've been selling buyer's agent services or e-com middle of funnel kind of e-com services where you're selling to business owners. And again, it's the same. Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward sale. You either show value or you don't. But when they get to BizOp, when they're dealing with people who are unaware, they two days ago or 2 seconds ago they didn't know about this opportunity. Now they've become aware of it. Now you've got to prove that you're not a scam. You've got to build trust instantly. You've got to sell them on why they need to change. You got to sell them on the solution that you're selling. You got to sell them then on your company and your product. There's a lot of, I guess, checkpoints that you need to go through with a BizOp that you might not have to go through as much with some of the other types of selling.
Yeah. And even as you were speaking that, Kris, too, I was just aware of what else is going on. Like, you have to help coach them on how to evaluate. Like, should I do an e-com? Should I do drop shipping? Should I do, this, that, or the other? So you've got to be a lot more leadership, I'd say. So, yeah, get the trust there so they're willing to listen to you. But you've got to be able to guide them. Sometimes I'll say, man, like, this one's not for you. Definitely jump in that. And if that doesn't work out, let's come back and through. And you can't be scared to do that. If you generally go through and qualify why they're looking at your offer versus others, where a lot of people are too scared to do that. Hey, I'm selling this. I got to stay on this line or this tangent, pretend they're not got other calls booked in or looking at anything else. But if you can genuinely be curious, put yourself in their shoes, do it, have the conversation you'd have with a best friend or a loved one, and like, well, that doesn't make sense for that. Well, that's like, you said that at the start of the call, but then that doesn't check out here. So that, you sure you still want to do that too? Because it's not adding up. And they're, oh, okay, yeah, that's right. So you can actually navigate the decision-making process and not be scared to go outside of the scope of what they're just looking at here. Then you're almost a life coach, that sort of trusted advisor piece. Whereas if you can't do that and you're just expecting to be on the train tracks and going to be the sort of straight line conversation. So I think that's a big thing too, the trust with you really quickly, but then allow them to open up what else is going on in their life. So you can either sort of shut down other things, help them to draw to this if it's there, not just doing it for the sake of it. And then they get the buy-in to you. And sometimes it's just logistics, or other time it's like you actually get the deal done. And then you get the repeat business and you get referrals and you get good outcomes, and then they're great students. So then again, the business owner loves you and it works out well. So I think that ability to navigate is probably a big thing where they can't do it. They're just used to selling it. And people say, oh, what do you think? Or, how would you weigh this up to this other biz op? And you might not know about the other biz op too. So you've got to be pretty well educated in the space and what people are looking for, and catch them out a little bit too, because they're just very early stages sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're selling an opportunity, and when you're selling an opportunity, often there's pain. Often there's a lot of pain, and you got to dig that out. But then as well, the awareness of that pain isn't as present in the mind of the buyer, of the prospect, because they've just seen this amazing opportunity. Life was okay, but I've seen this great opportunity. That sounds awesome. Let me check it out. And if we don't capture the momentum, then they go back to life. Life's not that bad.
Yeah,
things weren't that bad. There wasn't a lot of life wasn't broken. Whatever they were doing wasn't super broken. And they go back to the habit of the day-to-day. If they haven't made a decision quickly, they go back to the habit of the day-to-day, and this just kind of evaporates. And it was an opportunity missed, and we didn't capitalize on it then. And it can be hard to get people thinking in that mind frame again. And there's an interesting, and that's why BizOp can be bloody challenging, because if you're a business owner, you need to recruit, you need a sales rep, you're going to need a sales rep. Whether you jump off that call and you don't buy, if you don't buy our recruiting services, you go back to business that day. You still need a sales rep. So you've got to solve that problem. Whether you work with us, whether you work with another recruiter, or whether you just do it yourself, you still have that pain that's still very present in your business. So, and that's the same, I think, for a lot of the other types of selling. When you're not selling an opportunity, when you're solving a problem. And I think you have to go from selling an opportunity to then solving a problem. And that's where the key of BizOp, selling BizOp is highlighting problems, bringing awareness to problems that prospects haven't thought about. They thought they came to hear about this amazing opportunity, and then now they're really aware of all these problems that they've got and the urgency to solve them. But where I was going to go with this was one of our old colleagues who we've had on the podcast. He is Adrian, who's selling or he's managing, leading a team over in the States. He's selling, they're selling quit alcohol programs. And so it's a really unique sales cycle, because from what he's telling me, you have to get them. You have to get them on the call, because what happens is that people...
Probably a lot of shame.
There's a lot of, so they have a slip up, and they have a slip up on the weekend or whenever they have the slip up, and then they're feeling that kind of feeling of pain is very apparent. It's very kind of present, maybe on a Monday or a Sunday or whenever people apply or they go through the process. They see the ad and they're feeling that level of, I guess, regret and shame and all those negative feelings that sort of drive them to make a decision, a powerful decision. But then if they don't make that decision, from his experience and the salespeople's experience, he seems to think a lot of people, it's hard to get people from follow-up, because they quickly kind of bounce back, feel better, rebuild their confidence a little bit. Maybe Thursday comes, they're not feeling as bad about slipping up on the weekend, and it's gone. The horse is bolted.
Essentially,
yeah, they're just back in. You're back out of pain. Like it happened to me. It was just a cycle for years and years and years, where I would go out, I'd get on the drink and have a big night, and sometimes, party until the next day, and just feel terrible, and just swear off it, it's never happening again, just because I was in a world of hurt. I was terrible at bouncing back. I couldn't deal with hangovers. And, a week would go by, not even that, a few days, then I'm feeling okay. And then, you're feeling good enough to then go again the next weekend. So that was, and I think that happens in that office. That's an interesting, insight.
One. Yeah. No, I've heard of the days. Brad said it's definitely a good sesh when KC's on the drink. So maybe one day, fingers crossed, it's not ruled out forever. But yeah, definitely respect that there.
Respect the hustle. We'll keep that guy. I mean, he was a fun dude, old KC. But we might just leave him in the past. The dad, now the new version, the dad version of KC is taking the front seat.
2.0. But yeah, I guess just to build off that, man. Yeah, so B2C, I think it's shorter sales cycle, less stakeholders. It's usually just like one person or maybe their couple. It's good for volume. Like I never regret it. Like you can go low ticket B2C, which was, fitness. You get a lot of runs and you got 100, 150 sales a month. And then you go higher ticket. So shorter sales cycle, more one call closing, less follow-up needed as well. So it's just like the avatar, the type of salesperson you want to do. Do you just want to run and gun and maybe do it more part-time or something as well? Typically, you can sort of tick a lot of boxes there. Versus B2B. And I think, B2B, as you said, when there's a clear pain of like, we need recruitment, we need a new setter, we need a new closer, or, there's a clear black and white problem that needs to be solved. It's a business decision. Versus other B2B stuff, which I've experienced in, like I said, the AI space, where it's new, it's so scary. Like, oh, that's cool, that's novel, we'll just wait and watch the space and see how it goes. Or someone wants to upgrade their CRM. The CRM works, but if they change it, there's time, there's bandwidth, there's labor, there's things that could go break. It could be potentially worse. Yeah, they know if it all goes well, they know other business owners that have sort of done it, increase revenue by 20%. But these sort of like upgrade sort of, I guess, solutions where things could be better versus, like you said, when we've done stuff with the recruitment piece, it's just very black and white and people are sort of hustling you to get a decision. They're either in or they're out or they'll do it there. that's where I think it gets really interesting as well, like how to navigate that. And when it is more of like an upgrade sort of solution, there's so much happening behind the scenes. So I've been on calls, like some of the AI businesses, those 9-figure businesses, like I won't go into who the businesses were, but you've got people there. Sometimes there's like 8 people on a Zoom call. And I was,
Wow.
yeah, it can be pretty intimidating. You know
I'm
what
sure.
I mean?
I'm sure.
I got
One versus
Fathom.
8.
It's Matt and Matt's Fathom note taker versus like 8 people on there too. And sometimes you might get someone in, like a developer or someone to sort of back you up as well and have that sort of, you know, presence or frame as we sort of talk about. But the way they do it and how to set up the conversation behind the scenes, like how you send the resources. Is it a video? Is it a PDF? You got someone on the call, the grandson of the founder, he's 18 versus the original founder, he's in his 70s versus, you know, there's a lot there.
Managing stakeholders, stakeholder management's big with that side of thing. Can you talk through the, I guess, selling the AI offer? And because you went from selling BizOp to jumping on AI, and then you're also, you know, selling recruiting services, like high ticket recruiting services, B2B. What are some of the differences or what were some of the, I guess, insights you've got from that process selling AI?
Yeah, it's good. So at the moment, I'm on a couple of offers, which is good. It's sort of exciting, but you are reflecting a lot on what's, you know, different, what you like, what you might not like. So with that is, I think sometimes it's you. It's like, for me, I'm like an early adopter. It's like, okay, cool. You know, latest iPhone, latest this, let's jump in. So you'll get some businesses are like that. They're just like, yeah, let's go in regardless. Not a lot of due diligence and sort of come in and just sort of bang it out really quick.
And just by the way, you're selling, so the product is AI.
So it's AI solutions. Yeah, sorry to just unpack that a little bit more. So it's typically like AI solutions to maximize your sales output. You know, so a lot of the businesses we're speaking to, they might be missing phone calls or emails, or, you know, they've got a huge database that's just not being harvested properly by VAs or their sales team or whatever. So it's like helping them to assess the business. Are there any missed opportunities? Yeah. And then how you could deploy AI in such a way, in a bespoke way too, to sort of meet those needs. So the best way I could explain it is, rather than you running your own Facebook ads, you go into an agency to run it for you. So you're sort of engaging in an agency to build out a solution. What do you need? To
so like dialers, chatbots.
Yeah. Sometimes you can clone voices as well. So if you want to clone your voice if the owner and have a level of engagement as well. People get, go to make a purchase, like an e-com business jumps on a, abandoned cart, and then AI sort of, follows up with them and try to get a result. So any missed opportunities, is pretty much every stakeholder in your business has like a next step. So whether they're an existing, customer, there could be reviews, referrals. If it's like a prospect, how to convert them and make them a customer, or getting, upsells, downsells, cross sells. So it's really maximizing the conversion piece. So with that, it can just be AI. Even then, I just assumed, because I didn't go into the full sort of spiel of what it is, but AI is just such a, a wormhole. They're just talking about
a bit of a buzzword
stuff.
as well.
It is. So they're just talking about different tangents and stuff, and you've got like an hour to unpack it and just keeping it here. It's like, yeah, that's nice. So it's like, what's going to be the low-hanging fruit? That was the main focus. So where's the actual pain? Like getting them to sort of identify where are they missing it too. And there's a lot of data out there of like business owners missing calls, or you might do one follow-up, but then not the next follow-up and not the next follow-up too. So like deploying a solution where they feel the benefits of that quite quickly, make some money to cover the cost of the investment.
So you got to show them quick wins on that call. And would you? What was the process? Was the process that you did an assessment before a tool to sort of save time, so you didn't have to kind of go through it on the call?
That's it.
How much of the heavy lifting was already done before the call?
And that's where it varies a little bit too. So there's like webinars happening. There's AI, playing around with AI sort of setters and stuff as well, which can be good. But then sometimes again, they're not as much building as much empathy and stuff too.
I've also found business owners though. They are very time poor, which then makes it hard to get them to do homework.
Yeah.
So if you've got like 8 stakeholders on a call and none of them know about what your product is,
or even 2 of them and the rest don't, then it's like heavy lifting all of a sudden, like, running out of time really, really quick. So, there's different ways. Like you got setters, you got webinars, you got surveys. So you're getting some information, and then based on that, you got to build out a strategy. So for me, I liked businesses that were sort of between 2 to 5 mil, because a lot of the time it's like one person or maybe one or two people. So you get some buy-in, get some motion, build a really good relationship to understand.
Because you're selling to a person more
Yeah,
so. Selling to
that's
people,
it.
not so much of a process.
Versus when it was above the $10 million threshold or above, like that's where it is, like you said, more that process play where it gets a lot harder. And it's very easy for them to just leave it and watch the space and feel like, hey, set and forget.
Yeah,
So
they're like, cool. That's interesting.
it's interesting.
But
It's
they can't
novel.
sort of visualize they can't really feel that tangible ROI.
And they don't know anyone that's done it too. So I don't know anyone that's done it. How good is it actually going to be? I want some, concrete data, and you can anticipate it too. You can speak to other clients, but they might be in different industries. It's easier to pull it apart. You don't have like a catalog of, hey, here's 1,000 people have used AI.
What was the ticket price?
So various solutions, anywhere from 5K up to about 50K, depending on what they're after too.
What was your biggest sale? What was the biggest deal you did?
Yeah, so I did a big one, like up to that sort of 50K threshold, which is good. So it's like, because there's a lot of different AI softwares essentially. So there can be anywhere from 8 to 11 different sort of softwares. So how it's sort of plugged in and deployed, and do they want it to cover, messaging, emails, phones, like the different mediums it's sort of covering. So it can be sort of bigger ticket, and the effort was the same. That's what I realized. Whether you're doing like a 5 or 10K deal, which could be a lot to a business between 100 to 500K, it's trying to keep businesses above $500,000. Like that was a bit of a threshold that we sort of learned about too. If it's below that, it's just can be a bit too much of a squeeze. Versus like a bigger one as well, can be just as much effort. But for me, I feel like it was it was all the conversations happening behind closed doors. It was really hard to control that. And then I found even myself, as a closer or salesperson, whatever you want to call it, you're sort of doing more fear-based selling, which doesn't feel very natural, but you've just got to have that awareness of like if you do it versus you don't do it, or what's the opportunity.
You've really got to dial into the cost of inaction.
A lot, which
future consequences of them not changing and getting eaten alive by all the competitors.
Yeah, and get them to feed that back to you. So it's not you saying it, but you've got to sort of like prompt it, anticipate it, and then them feed it back, like how much money is still on the table if we didn't do this, or associated cost to miss there. So that was a more complex one. Again, still very rewarding and fulfilling, and pays well and all the rest of it.
And you've recently kind of been stepping into sort of working with us a bit deeper, especially with Beyond Closes and working with recruitment. So, but you've mentioned that you really enjoyed that change.
Yeah.
What's behind that?
So that's been good as well, just because again, it's very black and white. Sometimes you still got to help the business. So for you guys, it's like, does the business, are they ready for a closer? Do they need to build out the processes? Is it just getting a person in? They got all the framework behind it, or do they have some good closers they need to improve the performance around too? So I think navigating that as well. And I feel like I know more than probably I thought I knew, just because again, I've been in the space and just like you said, clocked over the sort of 10 mil in sales this year done remotely, where you can come in, dissect it a lot more, and then make some very strong recommendations. So it's like the product knowledge is just sort of there. Whereas AI, like I was literally every week speaking to the developers, learning about new solutions that are there, new softwares on the market, so much learning, which I enjoy. It's cool to learn more about it. It's become more of my sort of life and sort of what's out there. But to stay on top of the product knowledge is a lot of work in itself too, and you're an authority, you know more about the person you're speaking to as well. Typically, sometimes again they can see a bit of a gun, and that's when you've got to bring a developer on the call to sort of help you out to navigate that if they're pretty sophisticated. But that's it. I feel like it's like B2B, clear problem, clear solution, a level of education, product knowledge is just ingrained. It's a subconscious versus something that's very new. They don't have comparison points. There's pretty much no pain because they don't know what they don't know. And then highly sophisticated. And one thing can go wrong. They can be like, oh, there's change in legislation in Queensland over this date, and now privacy data laws. So one thing is there's certain countries we couldn't sell to. So it was a global offer, like a lot of the business in Australia. But then it was like, okay, there's some very strict data privacy laws in India, where there's like the stuff within their information with their business had to go out to servers for the AI softwares that are based in Europe and the US and come back. And then before doing it's like, no, that's against.
You can't go through that
process. Yeah. It's all going to stay on site in the service.
There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of changes with, if it's a very dynamic product that you're selling, and also very technical.
Yeah.
And also where you're having to sell to, like you say, multiple stakeholders, they're going through a process. they're not super aware of the upside yet. It's not super as apparent. I think, that's certainly challenging. Sophisticated buyers as well, super sophisticated.
Yeah, and different agendas too. So you might have some of those people are worried about their own jobs. They're like, AI is going to come in, and am I going to be as worthwhile or have as much influence in the company? They can be a bit scared. So then they start battling against you. It's like, okay, cool, this is going to make my life easier. And then they get to the point, oh, actually, this might take my job. So they're getting on the defensive. So you had someone that was helping you all of a sudden flip the switch, and you can sort of make assumptions why. So there's a lot that played out. And then, like I said, with that data privacy stuff, I had a few deals ready to go, and it was just regulation that closed the deal. I was like, okay, cool. I've put in 3 hours of work into the deal, and it's done. And
what were we going to make from the 3 hours of work each? What was each deal worth to you and commish?
It can vary, yeah. So between like 2 to sort of 4.5K. So for that, the 3 hours, ballpark it at whatever, $700.
So that's a little bit niggly when you lose a
it's good learning, and I
deal.
liked the challenge. Like, it's something that's very, very challenging, but you've got to be sharp and prepared. You can't just go in and fluke it. You know what I mean? Like, none of these deals are sort of fluked where people coming in with their credit card on their forehead.
You can't just plain close them into close them with the cost of an action and some fancy NLP.
Yeah, that's it. So that was a big part of it, man, with the B2B. I think they're both great opportunities. Like I said, the commission in B2B is typically higher, but sales cycle longer too. So if you're doing it, you sort of, be in the long haul and nurture and keep the relationship going and stuff as well. There's only so much you can, precious or the wrong word, but entice or be like, hey, they're
influence. There's only so much you can sell them.
Yeah. Oh, Black Friday AI offer. It's like,
yeah,
doesn't matter. We're not ready, or we've got to wait for, like I said, people to come back or whatever too. So you've really got to inspire the change and shift their beliefs. So much belief stuff too. It was like, why am I so excited about it? And they're not necessarily. What I have to sort of cut through, and then showing the case studies as well. So other people sort of telling the story, and sampling the product as well. Like, if you get a AI to give them a call and chat it out and sort of.
Which is also a risk, though. I mean, I feel like whenever you've got a prospect who's sampling your product, you're so inferior. Like, there's just I can see why you weren't. I can see why that's not as enjoyable. Like, for me, I just couldn't think of anything worse than being selling something where it's just purely based upon needs and a solution. This company has a need. We've got to uncover the need, but then we've got to present the logical solution. They've got to go through a process. They've got to test, and we've got to go through a proposal kind of process. It just takes a lot of the skill and the fun and the enjoyment out of it.
You can still have some good ones. Like, I still had some great, like plumbers that were going to get a receptionist, so rather than getting a receptionist, it just made sense. Let's give AI a go. It works 24/7, blah, blah, blah. Or like, real estate agents as well. So it's like a front line rather than having, again, a receptionist. So I think when it's there, when they've got, again, it's a lot more black and white. They're going to get a receptionist, or a receptionist just left. Like, rather than paying them $60K a year, let's give this solution a go, which could be $20K for a year. That, I think, was a lot easier to get it sort of done. But when it's like, okay, we just got to add it into the business and see how it goes, a very small budget, no expectations, no urgency, all the rest of it. So some of those ones were good as well, where they just wanted to get it in, and they're really sick of humans. It sounds a bit funny saying that, but just really sick of people, missing shifts or not showing up or just getting paid their rate and stuff as well. So when that was there, it was definitely a lot easier because there was pain, but for the majority, 80% of it, there wasn't sort of pain.
Well, I think it's just any sale, isn't it? So when you've got a level of problem and a compelling reason to make a shift, it's much easier. Sales is a lot of fun, and that's where I think the skill is can you highlight those things? But when you're talking about a technical sale and you've got to go deep with it, your questions have to be on point. It takes a lot of time to really master the product knowledge in that, to where you're just super laser dialed with your whole process and you can influence people.
Yeah, particularly if they're bringing in like their CTO or something. So there's a few calls I can get without going into too much. Where you're coming in and you're like, oh no, like the developer's busy. I'll manage it too. But then they've got their sort of CTO or their IT guy there as well, and they're expecting you to be able to navigate that. And that's, so it's It's game over. It's game over. So you
Guys,
can still
I'm just a little bit out of my depth here, and so I might just take a
Reschedule.
pause.
My Zoom's
I've
cutting in and
I've
out.
just come up with. I'm feeling a bit off. My stomach. I've just do you mind if we reschedule for tomorrow?
Yeah.
I
But,
might just send you through an email with.
man, it's good role playing or sparring sessions around that sort of stuff too. But you still got to add value to them. You got to give them a lot of homework and specifics. That's why I'd say, okay, I need you to, speak to your phone provider, make sure they can do the call forwarding. I need you to speak to your CRM. I need you to do that. So it's just delegate, and then you have to deflect a bit, but not drop the ball. Of course, get back to them in 24 hours. But that was a lot of energy to do that with conviction.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work with that, man.
So
Cool.
It's cool.
Well, there we have it. There's a bit of insight into selling different stuff. B2B versus B2C,
Mm-hmm.
people versus process, types of B2C, types of B2B, whether you're selling BizOp, where you're kind of making someone aware of something they didn't know about, and then you're going to teach them the whole thing and kind of create a new opportunity, or are you solving a problem for a business owner or someone who's kind of in it already. I hope it was valuable, team. I think we're going to leave it here, and we'll see you on the next episode. See you, Matt. Have
Thanks, man.
a great rest of the
Appreciate
day.
having me. See you, mate. Bye.